Ethan Cole hated three things in life: malfunctioning gravity boots, synthetic coffee, and paperwork. Unfortunately, on the morning he arrived at Nexus 9 Trade Station, he was dealing with all three. The station floated like a small artificial planet between several major hyperspace routes. Millions of travelers passed through it every day. Massive transparent domes revealed endless stars outside, while streams of cargo ships moved through glowing docking lanes like schools of metallic fish. Ethan stepped out of his transport shuttle carrying a toolbox in one hand and a half-empty cup of synthetic coffee in the other. "This tastes like someone described coffee to a machine," he muttered. A nearby cleaning robot immediately replied, "Thank you for your positive feedback. I wasn't complimenting you. Complaint recorded." "Of course it was." The robot rolled away. Ethan sighed. Somewhere above him, giant holographic advertisements flickered across the ceiling. One promoted cybernetic pets. Another advertised luxury vacations on floating ocean worlds. A third showed a smiling alien family holding what appeared to be a glowing cube. Ethan still had no idea what the cube was supposed to do. After delivering repair drones to a shipping company, he finally had a free evening. For once, nobody was shooting at him, chasing him, or asking him to fix something exploding. It felt suspicious. He wandered through one of the station's market districts, watching dozens of species trade goods beneath glowing neon signs. Small anti-gravity vehicles floated overhead. Translation drones buzzed through the air like mechanical insects. The place felt alive. Then everything went dark. Every light vanished. Every hologram disappeared. Every screen died. For a brief moment, the entire station seemed to stop breathing. Then came the screams. "What happened?" "My display implant failed." "Who's touching my tail?" "Panic levels rising," shouted an emergency AI. A second later, another AI announced, "Please remain calm." Nobody remained calm. Ethan nearly dropped his toolbox. The blackout made no sense. Nexus 9 possessed enough backup systems to survive a direct meteor strike. Darkness swallowed the enormous corridor. People pushed past one another. Metal clanged somewhere nearby. Emergency alarms remained silent. That frightened Ethan more than the darkness. His eyes struggled to adjust. "Great," he muttered. "I'm going to die because somebody forgot to pay the electric bill." Someone collided with his shoulder. Another traveler shoved past him. Trying to avoid being knocked over, Ethan reached out blindly. His fingers found another hand, warm, soft. Someone else's fingers instantly tightened around his. For a second, both remained frozen. "Oh," Ethan said awkwardly. "Sorry, I wasn't trying to kidnap anybody." The stranger remained silent. More frightened voices echoed through the corridor. Without thinking, Ethan kept holding the hand. "Look," he said, forcing a nervous laugh. "If we're both lost, we might as well be lost together." To his surprise, he heard a quiet chuckle. A woman's voice answered from the darkness. "That may be the strangest survival strategy I have ever heard." Her voice sounded calm. Too calm. Around them, chaos continued growing, yet somehow she sounded completely unafraid. Ethan frowned. "You're in this blackout surprisingly well. I've experienced worse." "That's comforting and concerning at the same time." The woman laughed softly. The sound seemed strangely elegant. For reasons he couldn't explain, Ethan felt safer hearing it. They moved carefully through the darkness together, still holding hands, still unable to see one another. Then Ethan heard something, footsteps, not running, not panicked, purposeful, several sets, approaching fast. The woman beside him suddenly became very still. The change was immediate. Like a predator sensing danger, her grip tightened. For the first time, tension entered her voice. "Stay close." Ethan opened his mouth to ask why. Before he could speak, something metallic sliced through the darkness ahead, and somewhere nearby, a weapon powered on with a low, deadly hum. The humming sound grew louder. Ethan could not see anything, but years spent working around dangerous machinery had taught him when something wanted to kill him. That sound definitely wanted to kill him. The woman beside him pulled his arm. "Move." Her calm voice had vanished. Ethan obeyed instantly. A bright blue blade flashed through the darkness where his head had been a fraction of a second earlier. The weapon struck a metal support beam. Molten sparks exploded into the air. "Okay," Ethan shouted while stumbling after her. "Now I'm officially having a bad day." Several figures emerged from the darkness. Their faces were hidden behind tactical helmets. Red optical sensors glowed where eyes should have been. They moved with terrifying coordination. Not ordinary criminals, professionals. The woman suddenly pushed Ethan behind her. The movement surprised him. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Protecting you." "I think you've misunderstood the situation." One of the attackers raised a weapon. A sharp crack echoed through the corridor. The woman moved. For a moment, Ethan thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. She crossed several meters almost instantly. 1 second, she stood beside him. The next, she appeared directly in front of the assassin. Her fist struck the attacker's chest armor. The armored figure flew backward. Actually flew. He smashed through a kiosk and disappeared into the darkness. Ethan blinked. "Well," he said, "that's not normal." "No. I feel like you should have mentioned you can punch people into next week." The woman ignored him. More attackers rushed forward. A hidden blade extended from her wrist with a metallic click. Silver light illuminated part of her face. For the first time, Ethan saw her clearly. Long ears, silver eyes, elegant features. She looked almost human, almost. But there was something regal about her. Something impossible to ignore. The assassins hesitated. Not because they were afraid, because they recognized her. One of them spoke through a distorted helmet speaker. "Target confirmed." Target? Ethan's stomach sank. Who exactly had he grabbed in the dark? The woman suddenly pulled him toward a maintenance hatch. A panel beside the wall slid open. She entered first. Ethan followed. The hatch sealed behind them. The sounds of combat vanished instantly. Only the distant hum of emergency systems remained. A narrow maintenance tunnel stretched ahead. Pipes ran along the ceiling. Tiny repair drones floated through the darkness. One bumped directly into Ethan's forehead. "Unauthorized biological object detected," the drone announced. "That's a rude way to describe me." The drone scanned him. "Correction, confused biological object detected. That's more accurate." The woman laughed despite the situation. A surprisingly warm laugh. For several minutes they hurried through the maintenance network. The station remained dark. Something powerful had disabled every major system. That should have been impossible. Finally, Ethan stopped. "Okay, we need to talk." The woman turned toward him. "About what?" "Everything." He pointed behind them. Assassins. Then at her. Superhuman punching. Then at the ceiling. Galaxy-sized blackout. He folded his arms. "And somehow, I suspect you're not a traveling accountant." The woman smiled slightly. "You are observant. I once correctly identified a sandwich before reading the label." "Impressive." "I know." Before she could answer again, lights suddenly flickered overhead. Emergency power returned. One corridor after another illuminated across the tunnel system. Machines restarted, displays activated, ventilation systems roared back to life. Throughout the station, alarms finally began screaming. The woman stood beneath the white emergency lights. Ethan finally saw her completely. Her long silver-white hair flowed over a dark travel cloak. Faint glowing patterns shimmered beneath her skin. Her long ears rose elegantly from her hair. Everything about her radiated authority. Not wealth. Not fame. Authority. The kind that could command fleets. The kind that could start wars. The kind that made people stand when she entered a room. A nearby emergency display activated. A galactic news channel appeared on the screen. The broadcast showed the face of the woman standing beside him. A gold imperial emblem rotated behind her image. The caption beneath read, "Alyra Voss, Supreme Queen of the Stellar Empire." Ethan stared at the screen, then at her, then back at the screen, then at her again. "Oh," the queen folded her arms. "That's all?" O is carrying a lot of emotional weight right now. For the first time since the blackout began, Queen Alyra Voss looked genuinely amused. Then both of them heard new footsteps approaching from deeper inside the maintenance tunnels. And this time, neither of them was smiling. The footsteps grew louder. Ethan instinctively looked around for somewhere to hide. The maintenance tunnel offered very few options. A stack of spare conduits, several access panels, one suspicious-looking cleaning drone that appeared completely untrustworthy. The footsteps continued approaching. Queen Alyra calmly drew the silver blade attached to her wrist. Unlike Ethan, she looked more annoyed than worried. "Friends," Ethan whispered. "No." Tax collectors? She glanced at him. No. Good. I hate surprises. You seem surprisingly relaxed. I'm not relaxed. My brain simply stopped processing danger 20 minutes ago. The footsteps finally rounded the corner. A dozen armored soldiers appeared, weapons raised. For a brief moment, Ethan thought they were another assassination team. Then he noticed the Imperial insignia, golden stars, silver phoenix, royal guard. The soldiers immediately lowered their weapons. Every one of them dropped to one knee. Your Majesty, their commander said. Alyra nodded. Commander Varek. Relief flashed across the man's face. We lost contact with you during the blackout. I noticed. The commander looked genuinely embarrassed. Ethan almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Several soldiers suddenly noticed Ethan standing beside their queen. The expressions behind their helmets became difficult to read. Confusion, suspicion, concern. One soldier actually tilted his head as if trying to understand why an ordinary human mechanic was standing next to the most powerful ruler in the galaxy. Honestly, Ethan wondered the same thing. The commander finally spoke. And this human is? Isiram Ryan died there. Ishurum from Raner. Seeing her keen name Bran Brian Rider. In a Don Brian Brian Rider Q. Exu Excellent question. The commander ignored him. Alyra answered, "He is with me." The response immediately changed everything. The soldiers straightened. Nobody questioned her. Nobody asked further questions. Ethan, however, had several questions. Thousands, actually. The group escorted them through the maintenance network toward a secured sector. As they walked, emergency broadcasts echoed through nearby corridors. The station remained under lockdown. Docking bays were sealed. Transit systems suspended. Security forces were searching every district. The blackout had affected nearly 40% of Nexus 9, which should have been impossible. The station possessed quantum backup systems specifically designed to prevent this kind of failure. Someone had bypassed them, someone very skilled. Several minutes later, they entered a secure operations center. Massive holographic displays filled the room. Star maps floated in midair. Data streams flowed across transparent screens. Dozens of officers worked frantically. The moment Alyra entered, the room fell silent. Every officer stood. Ethan nearly stood too before realizing he was already standing. Alyra moved toward the central display. Her silver eyes scanned incoming reports. "What do we know?" An intelligence officer answered. "The attack appears coordinated. Casualties? Minimal. Assassins?" The officer hesitated. "Most escaped." Alyra's expression hardened slightly. That worried Ethan more than the attack itself. The Queen looked dangerous when calm. A young officer suddenly approached carrying a data tablet. His eyes landed on Ethan, then widened, then narrowed, then widened again. "You," he said. Ethan pointed at himself. "Unfortunately," the officer examined the tablet. "According to surveillance records, you were the last individual seen with Her Majesty before the attack." "That sounds bad." "It is bad. I agree." The officer looked at Alyra. "Your Majesty, protocol requires we investigate him." Ethan sighed. "Of course it does." The commander stepped closer. "Where were you during the blackout?" "In the dark." "Before that?" "Buying noodles." The commander blinked. "Noodles?" "They were very expensive noodles." The officer typed something into his tablet. Ethan groaned. "You're actually writing that down." The officer continued typing. Alyra suddenly spoke. "He is not involved." The room became silent again. The commander lowered his head. "As you wish, Your Majesty." Yet Ethan noticed something troubling. Several officers exchanged glances. Not disagreement. Suspicion. Not directed toward Alyra. Toward him. Someone clearly wanted answers. Someone perhaps wanted a scapegoat. Alyra seemed to notice it too. Her eyes moved quietly across the room, watching, measuring, thinking. Then another report appeared on the central hologram. The entire room froze. Alyra stepped forward. "So." Her voice became colder. "Now, we know." Ethan stared at the display. A section of security footage had been recovered. The video showed the exact moment the blackout began. A hidden figure accessed the station's core systems, not from outside, not from some distant location, from inside Nexus 9 itself. Someone had known exactly where the Queen would be, and someone inside the station had helped them. The assassination attempt had never been random. It had been planned. very carefully, very personally. For the first time since meeting her, Ethan saw genuine concern in Alyra's silver eyes. Somewhere inside the station, a traitor was waiting, and whoever they were, they had almost killed the most powerful queen in the galaxy. The operations center never truly slept. Even hours after the blackout, holographic displays continued flooding the room with streams of information. Security feeds, communication logs, hyperspace traffic reports, biometric scans, and intelligence summaries floated through the air like glowing rivers of light. Ethan sat in a chair he was fairly certain cost more than his transport shuttle. He still wasn't entirely sure why he was there. Across the room, Queen Alyra stood before a massive three-dimensional projection of Nexus 9 Station. The blue hologram slowly rotated. Highlighted sectors flashed red. Every red section represented a location compromised during the blackout. There were too many. "That doesn't look good," Ethan said. A nearby officer glanced at him. "It's not good. I was trying to be optimistic." "You failed." "Fair." Several officers fought smiles. Alyra continued studying the map. The Queen's long ears twitched slightly. Ethan had started noticing that when she was concentrating. Suddenly, a new transmission appeared. An intelligence drone floated into the room. Unlike normal drones, this one possessed a transparent spherical shell filled with glowing quantum processors. It projected a recording directly into the air. Everyone watched. A shadowy figure appeared. The image was distorted, the face hidden, the voice electronically altered, yet the message was clear. "The Void Circle sends its regards." The recording ended. Silence followed. Ethan frowned. "That sounds like the kind of organization that spends too much time naming itself." No one laughed. Alyra did, only slightly. One intelligence officer stepped forward. "The Void Circle was believed destroyed 40 years ago." "Apparently they disagree," Ethan replied. The officer ignored him. Alyra folded her arms. "Report." The officer activated another display. Ancient symbols appeared. Alien writing. Long extinct languages. Archived intelligence files. "The Void Circle is older than the Empire itself." The room grew quiet. "The organization operates through infiltration. They place agents inside governments, corporations, military fleets, and communication networks." Another file appeared, then another, and another. The scale became disturbing. Entire planetary administrations had fallen to them in the past. Several wars had apparently been started by their manipulation. Ethan leaned back slowly. "Okay." Nobody responded. He pointed at the screen. "No, seriously. Okay." Still silence. "Can somebody tell me why we're discussing the galaxy's most dangerous secret organization while I'm still technically a cargo mechanic?" Alyra finally looked at him. "Because they tried to kill you too." Ethan blinked. "That feels unfair." "Life is often unfair. Usually, not this quickly." Several officers actually laughed. The mood eased briefly. Then alarms erupted. Red warning lights flooded the room. Every display flashed simultaneously. "Security breach, Sector 17, security breach." Sector 17, security breach, Sector 17. The room exploded into motion. Officers rushed toward consoles. Commanders issued orders. Holographic maps shifted rapidly. Alyra's expression hardened instantly. "What happened?" a technician answered. "Unknown hostile activity inside a restricted data vault." Another officer suddenly looked pale. "Your Majesty..." "What?" The officer swallowed. "The vault contains classified records regarding your secret visit." The room froze. Even Ethan understood the implication. Someone was destroying evidence, or stealing it. Either possibility was terrible. Alyra immediately moved. "Prepare transport." "Your Majesty, I am going there." Several commanders protested at once. "Too dangerous. You may be the target." "We should send soldiers." Alyra ignored every objection. Her silver eyes shifted toward Ethan. "You are coming." Ethan pointed at himself. "Again? Again." 20 minutes later, they arrived in Sector 17. The district sat deep within the station's internal structure. Few civilians ever visited. Massive quantum servers filled the corridors. Thousands of data crystals glowed behind transparent security barriers. The place felt more like a machine than a city. They advanced cautiously. Royal guards surrounded them. Weapons ready, sensors active. Then they found the vault. The reinforced entrance had been torn apart. Not hacked, not opened, torn apart. As if something incredibly powerful had forced its way through. Ethan stared. That's concerning. One guard nodded. Extremely. The group entered carefully. Inside, dozens of shattered security drones littered the floor. Sparks drifted through the darkness. Smoke filled the air. The attackers had already escaped, or so everyone thought. A faint metallic sound echoed somewhere deeper inside the vault. Everyone stopped. Weapons rose instantly. Another sound followed. Closer, slow footsteps, coming toward them out of the darkness. And whoever was approaching did not appear to fear the royal guard at all. The footsteps echoed through the ruined vault. Slow, deliberate, unhurried. Every royal guard aimed their weapons toward the darkness. Blue targeting lasers cut through drifting smoke. Ethan found himself standing directly behind Queen Alyra, not because he was protecting her, because she was unquestionably the safest object in the room. The footsteps stopped. A moment later, a figure emerged from the shadows. Everyone tensed, then immediately relaxed. It was a maintenance robot, a very old maintenance robot. Its yellow paint was scratched beyond recognition. One wheel squeaked loudly with every movement. A cleaning brush hung from one side, like a broken arm. The machine slowly rolled forward. "Floor inspection complete," it announced. The entire room stared. The robot continued. "Results disappointing." Even Alyra looked confused. One guard lowered his rifle. Another sighed loudly. Ethan pointed. "That's the terrifying enemy." The robot rotated toward him. "You appear disappointed." "I absolutely am." The robot beeped. "Complaint recorded." Ethan groaned. "Why does every machine in this station do that?" The old robot rolled away. Several guards laughed quietly. The tension eased, for only a moment. Then an intelligence officer approached one of the damaged security terminals. "What happened here?" Alyra asked. The officer activated emergency diagnostics. Holographic images flickered into existence. Broken footage. Corrupted files. Fragments of security recordings. Most were unusable. Then one clip stabilized. The room became silent. A masked figure appeared on the recording. The intruder moved with unnatural speed. Not running. Almost gliding. Security drones attacked. The figure destroyed them effortlessly, one after another. The footage ended when the camera itself was destroyed. Ethan frowned. "I don't like that person." "No one does," a guard muttered. More files appeared. The attackers had stolen specific information, not money, not technology, information, travel records, security clearances, encrypted communication logs. Most importantly, every file connected to Alyra's secret visit. Someone wanted to know exactly why the Queen had come to Nexus 9. Alyra studied the stolen data list carefully. Her silver eyes narrowed. "Interesting." Ethan looked at her. "That doesn't sound good." "It isn't." She pointed toward one highlighted file. "This record should not exist." Several officers looked confused. Alyra continued. "I never officially authorized this mission." Now everyone looked confused, even Ethan. "What does that mean?" "It means somebody created false records." The room grew quiet again. Alyra's long ears twitched slightly. A sign Ethan had learned meant she was thinking hard. Someone inside her own administration had prepared documents for a mission that officially did not exist. Someone had expected her arrival. The realization settled heavily over the room. The traitor wasn't simply inside the station. The traitor might be inside the Empire itself. Hours later, after dozens of investigations produced very few answers, Ethan found himself sitting on a quiet observation deck high above the station. Beyond the transparent dome stretched an ocean of stars. Freighters crossed distant shipping lanes. Hyperspace gates shimmered like artificial constellations. The view was beautiful and surprisingly peaceful. Alyra eventually joined him. She carried 2 cups. One was handed to Ethan. He examined the drink suspiciously. "What is it?" "Tea." "You have tea?" "We are not savages." Ethan took a sip. His eyebrows rose. "That's actually good." Alyra smiled. I know." For several minutes they sat quietly, watching ships pass, watching stars burn, watching the endless movement of the galaxy. For the first time since the blackout, neither of them was running. Neither of them was fighting. Neither of them was being chased by assassins. It felt strange. Alyra broke the silence first. "You are handling this surprisingly well." "I'm not." "You appear calm." I reached maximum panic yesterday. She laughed softly. What happened after that? I became too tired to continue. The Queen's laughter grew slightly louder. The sound surprised Ethan, not because it was rare, because it sounded genuine. For a moment, she seemed less like the most powerful ruler in the galaxy, more like an ordinary woman, a lonely one. Then a small hovering drone suddenly appeared beside them. The machine projected a red holographic notice, urgent security alert. Both immediately became serious. Alyra opened the message. Her expression changed. Not fear, not anger, something worse. Recognition. What is it? Ethan asked. The Queen remained silent for several seconds. Then she activated the message. An encrypted symbol appeared above the drone, a black circle surrounding a shattered star, the emblem of the Void Circle. Below it was a single sentence. No threats, no demands, no explanation. Just 6 words. We know who holds your hand. The observation deck became silent, very silent. Ethan stared at the message, then slowly looked at Alyra, then back at the message, then back at Alyra. Finally, he sighed. Okay. The Queen raised an eyebrow. Okay? Officially, the worst hand-holding incident in galactic history. For the first time, Alyra tried not to laugh, and failed. The laughter faded quickly. The message remained floating above the drone. We know who holds your hand. 6 simple words, yet somehow they felt more threatening than an army. Alyra dismissed the hologram. The observation deck darkened again. Far beyond the transparent dome, hundreds of ships crossed the stars like tiny sparks of light. Someone inside that vast galaxy was watching them. Someone who knew far too much. Ethan leaned back in his chair. You know, he said, most people send flowers when they're interested. Alyra looked at him. The Void Circle is not interested. I noticed. A security alert suddenly flashed across every display in the observation deck. Red symbols appeared. Priority Alpha. Imperial Command. Alyra stood immediately. The Queen opened the transmission. A familiar face appeared. High Chancellor Saran. One of the most respected figures in the Empire. His silver uniform carried enough decorations to qualify as structural support. Your Majesty, Saran said, we found something. Minutes later, they arrived in a heavily secured command center. The room buzzed with activity. Dozens of intelligence officers analyzed newly recovered station data. Entire walls displayed streams of encrypted communications. At the center of the room floated a rotating holographic sphere. Nexus 9. Every sector, every corridor, every system. The station's digital twin. Alyra approached. Report. Saran activated several files. We recovered fragments from the blackout. The hologram zoomed inward. Layers of hidden systems appeared, unauthorized pathways, encrypted access tunnels, secret communication relays. The station possessed far more hidden infrastructure than anyone realized. Ethan stared. Who builds this much secret stuff? Governments. That explains everything. Several officers smiled. Saran continued. The attackers weren't targeting only your Majesty. Alyra frowned. What do you mean? The hologram shifted again. New locations appeared. Military archives, quantum communication centers, ancient research vaults. Then one final location emerged. The room became silent. Even the officers stopped speaking. Alyra's eyes narrowed. No. Saran nodded grimly. Yes. Ethan looked between them. Nobody explained. I hate when people do that. Alyra pointed at the hologram. The Celestial Gate. Ethan still looked confused. Saran finally answered. An ancient alien structure. Okay. Built over 20,000 years ago. Less okay. Capable of opening stable hyperspace corridors across entire galaxies. Definitely not okay. The room remained tense. The Celestial Gate had supposedly been inactive for centuries. Most scientists considered it impossible to reactivate. Apparently, the Void Circle disagreed. More intelligence reports arrived, one after another, each worse than the last. Hidden agents had been identified across multiple systems. Several governors were under investigation. Military communications had been compromised. Entire intelligence networks infiltrated. The conspiracy reached far beyond Nexus 9. Far beyond the blackout, far beyond the assassination attempt. This was something enormous, something years in the making. Alyra stared silently at the data. Ethan noticed the change immediately. The Queen looked tired, not physically, emotionally. The weight of an entire empire rested on her shoulders. For a moment, he almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then another alarm erupted. This one louder, urgent, immediate. The command center exploded into motion. An officer shouted from across the room, "We have an intrusion!" Displays changed instantly. Security cameras appeared. Dozens of masked operatives were moving through one of the station's restricted sectors. Not hiding anymore, not sneaking, advancing openly, confidently. The Void Circle had stopped pretending. Alyra's expression hardened. They've made their move. Ethan stared at the footage. The attackers were heading toward the same area, the ancient research vaults, the ones connected to the Celestial Gate. The realization hit everyone simultaneously. The blackout, the stolen files, the assassins, the infiltrators. Everything had led to this. The Void Circle had finally revealed its true objective, and they were dangerously close to achieving it. Alyra turned toward the commanders. "Mobilize every available unit." Orders immediately spread across the station. Royal Guards deployed, security forces activated, combat drones launched, fighter craft prepared for emergency response. The entire station transformed into a battlefield. Ethan watched the chaos unfold, then looked at Alyra. "You know I'm just a mechanic, right?" The Queen smiled faintly. "You stopped running several chapters ago." Before Ethan could answer, a new transmission appeared. The sender identification stunned everyone. High Chancellor Saran. But Saran was standing right there. The room fell silent. Slowly, everyone turned toward the Chancellor. His face remained calm, too calm. For the first time, Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. The message automatically played, and the voice that emerged belonged to Saran himself. "By the time you hear this, the final phase will have begun." No one moved. No one breathed. Alyra stared at her most trusted advisor, and Saran smiled. Not kindly, not warmly, but like a man who had been hiding behind a mask for a very long time. The traitor had finally revealed himself. No one in the command center moved. High Chancellor Saran stood calmly beneath the glow of the holographic displays, while his recorded message continued playing above him. "For 20 years, the recording said, I have watched empires grow weaker. Corruption, stagnation, fear disguised as order. The Void Circle was created to replace a broken galaxy." The message ended. Silence followed. Alyra's silver eyes remained fixed on him. "You murdered thousands." Saran's expression never changed. "I sacrificed thousands." Several guards raised their weapons. The Chancellor smiled faintly. Then every display in the room suddenly went black. A second later, emergency lights activated. Again, darkness. The same darkness where everything had begun. Ethan stared upward. "You people really need to stop turning off the lights." Explosions shook the station. The battle had started. Across Nexus 9, Void Circle operatives launched coordinated attacks. Combat drones filled corridors. Security systems fought for control against hostile artificial intelligences. Royal fleets arriving from hyperspace engaged hidden enemy vessels emerging from cloaked positions around the station. The galaxy's largest trade hub became a war zone, and at the center of it all stood the Celestial Gate, ancient, silent, waiting. Hours later, Alyra, Ethan, and a strike team reached the ancient chamber hidden deep beneath the station. The sight stole Ethan's breath. The gate towered hundreds of meters high. Countless alien symbols glowed across its surface. Streams of blue energy flowed through circular rings, suspended in midair. It looked less like a machine and more like a piece of the universe itself. Unfortunately, Saran was already there. The Chancellor stood upon an elevated platform surrounded by Void Circle soldiers. The Celestial Gate hummed behind him. Ancient systems were awakening. Alyra stepped forward. "It's over." Saran shook his head. "No, it's beginning." The giant structure released a pulse of energy. The station trembled. Warning messages flooded every nearby display. Celestial Gate activation, 72%. Celestial Gate activation, 73%. Celestial Gate activation, 74%. The numbers kept climbing. Combat erupted. Royal Guards charged. Void Circle soldiers opened fire. Blue plasma bolts crossed the chamber. Combat drones exploded. Energy shields shattered. The battle spread across the colossal room. Alyra confronted Saran directly. For the first time since meeting her, Ethan saw the Queen unleash her full strength. She moved like living lightning, faster than sight, deadlier than any weapon. Meanwhile, Ethan noticed something others missed: a maintenance access panel hidden beneath the activation platform. His mechanic instincts immediately recognized it. The gate wasn't being controlled through the main systems. It was being controlled through auxiliary infrastructure, which was absurd and very stupid. Exactly the kind of thing an engineer would do. Of course, Ethan muttered. While soldiers battled around him, he crawled beneath the platform. Several plasma bolts narrowly missed him. This is officially the worst maintenance job I've ever accepted. The activation core glowed before him. Ancient alien technology mixed with modern modifications. Saran had patched 20,000-year-old machinery using station infrastructure. Ethan almost admired the insanity. Almost. Working desperately, he bypassed control relays, disconnected power links, overloaded synchronization nodes. The gate's energy fluctuations became unstable. Above him, Alyra and Saran continued fighting. Then the countdown suddenly stopped. Celestial Gate activation, 99%. The display froze. Everyone noticed. Everyone stopped. For one terrible second, nobody knew whether Ethan had succeeded. Then every screen displayed a new message. System failure, activation aborted. The chamber went silent. The gate powered down. The ancient rings slowly stopped rotating. The danger had passed. Saran stared at the displays in disbelief. Alyra stepped forward. It's over. This time, he knew it was true. Hours later, surviving Void Circle members were arrested across dozens of systems. Their networks collapsed. Hidden agents were exposed. Stolen data was recovered. The conspiracy that had operated for decades finally ended. Several weeks later, the galaxy celebrated. On every major world, broadcasts replayed the story: the blackout, the assassination attempt, the conspiracy, the victory, and unfortunately for Ethan, one particular detail. Standing beside Alyra before millions of viewers, he rubbed his forehead. I'd like to officially state that I accidentally grabbed her hand. The crowd laughed. Alyra smiled. I know. No heroic destiny. I know. No ancient prophecy. I know. I just couldn't see. The Queen's silver eyes sparkled with amusement. I know. The audience laughed even harder. Later that evening, they stood together beneath the transparent dome, overlooking the stars. The station was peaceful again. Ships moved through distant hyperspace lanes. Life continued. Ethan had arrived at Nexus 9 as an ordinary mechanic trying to avoid trouble. Now he had helped save an empire. The thought still felt ridiculous. Alyra stood beside him, her silver hair glowing beneath the starlight. You changed, she said quietly. Ethan nodded. So, did you? For a moment neither spoke. The stars reflected in the Queen's eyes. The galaxy believes fate brought us together. Ethan smiled. Maybe. You still don't believe it? He looked out at the endless sea of stars. Then at the woman whose hand he had grabbed in the dark. The most powerful queen in the galaxy. And somehow, now, also his closest friend. Maybe fate isn't some grand plan, he said. Maybe it's just what happens after a mistake. Alyra laughed softly, a warm, genuine laugh. Together, they watched the stars in comfortable silence, and somewhere beyond the countless worlds of the galaxy, the darkness that had brought them together was gone. But the path it had opened remained, waiting for whatever came next.